Hello, welcome to AmandaSushii Speaks. Amanda here, and today we're going through episodes 12 through 15 of season 1 of the Apothecary Diaries. And this time, this is my third episode of this podcast. I'm going to go kind of episode by episode because before I was going kind of all over the place. So let's try and be organized and see if I stick to that. So episode 12 is called The Eunuch and the Courtesan, and it's basically where Feng Mingxi got executed, and anyone who has some kind of relation to her family are also being fired who are working in the palace. And it turns out the people who kidnapped Maomao, they are part of that. They're connected to Feng Ming's family. So in turn, Maomao is affected, and Jinshi is kind of torn, like, do I fire her? He can literally put an order where she won't get fired. So it's like almost his say so, but he feels bad because he's like, it's not her choice. Like, she hates it here is what he thinks. But Maomao is actually like, I like it here and I make decent wages and that way I could pay back my debt. And she wants to stay. But of course, there's this classic misunderstanding and she ends up getting fired. I really like this episode for the fact that Maomao, we get to see her kind of make the decision. Does she want to stay as the village apothecary with her dad and her chosen family at the brothel, or does she want to go back to this kind of newer life where she's the poison tester, she gets to research and create ingredients, so she's also an apothecary there, and she's also the head lady in waiting, and she gets all these different scenarios she never would have had in the village. And it's just nice to see her make a decision, and it's also, nice to see that Jinshi didn't want to make that decision for her. It's been said multiple times that she's his pawn, and I think he really had to think hard on that, and he could do what he wanted, which was to order her to stay, but he decided no, like he wants her to have her freedom, and he thought that meant that she wouldn't be at the palace, but turns out he was wrong. But she was able to make her choice, make her decision on where she wants to live, and not get kidnapped and thrown into it, just more of like her actual choice. And she did say something along the lines to one of her brothel sisters. She said something like her job is a little bit harder than others, and she it's hard to fill, and she has this really cool opportunity where she doesn't have to do what the other courtesans do, and she can actually kind of study something she's interested in, which is the poisons and kind of solving crimes. So I think it was a really cool episode to show us where her head's at, what she wants to do. I also love that Guoshin or Goshen. Hey, I at least remembered kind of in general his name, Jinshi's right-hand guy, Gaoshin. I love that, at first he kept referring to Maomao as Jinshi's toy, and he doesn't let go of toys ever since he was a kid. We get that all the time. But now he was finally like, she's way more important than being just a toy. She's so smart, and it would be a total loss if she wasn't at the palace. And so I totally believe he was the one who came up with the party idea and because they said something like someone to have hired all three of the most popular vertigrab brothel girls, the most popular ones, would have to have a lot of money. And Gaoshin got them palace funds, so I think he could have pulled it off. And Jinshi doesn't seem like the type to be going to these type of courtesan parties, so the fact that Jinshi and Gaoshin were there, I definitely think Gaoshin planned it, so Jinshi and Maomao could kind of figure out this misunderstanding and make up, and basically Gaoshin to the rescue. I did hate that, because Maomao wasn't working at the palace anymore and she had to go to the brothel, she kind of had to do this side gig as a courtesan, which is why she went with the other girls. And it's kind of like, if she had not had the option to go back to the palace, then I don't know. It's just the sad reality of this world that we're in with Apothecary Diaries. Because at first I was trying to not harp on it too much, but I think that's the point of the show, to be well, if Jinshi and her didn't have that conversation, she would be probably having to be a courtesan, and who knows if she would have had to have to do everything and kind of, I don't know. I don't think she's that type of character, so maybe she would have had to move on. But anyway, that didn't happen. So yeah, this episode was definitely Maomao's choice. And I also love that we just see Jinshi just being depressed that she's gone. That was just icing on the cake. On to episode 13. It's called Serving in the Outer Courts. And this is where we learn that Maomao is now serving Jinshi as his personal servant in his home on his property. That man is head over heels in love. Also, so right in the beginning, Maomao looks so dolled up and dressed up because her sisters at the brothel, like, did her makeup and gave her outfits and stuff. And so she looks so pretty, right? And she's catching the attention of all these guys, and Jinshi's just getting jealous, and that is what I live for. That is the content I live for. We love a little non-toxic jealous boyfriend, okay? This episode is definitely more about the world building and a little bit about Jinshi, kind of more of like his environment that he's in. And this outer court is so different than what were we in, like the Jade Palace with Lady Gyoko. And it's just interesting because before Maomao, she was the lady in waiting, and it kind of felt like almost unreal because it's just like leisurely activities, right? Like the ladies are usually throwing like a little tea party together, or there's like a festival to do. It's just very leisurely. It's not too busy. Versus now we're in the outer court and Maomao has to study for a test. There's ladies with education. There's military guys. Like, it's a little bit more, I don't know, realistic, or like the working environment. And it's almost like we got like, catered a little bit with the Jade, the inner court, the Jade Palace and all that. Like, we got catered like, a leisurely kind of easy lifestyle, and now we're pushed with Momo to kind of, you have to like work a little bit harder here. This area has more like, normal people, everyday people, not a lady, no emperors randomly walking around, stuff like that. And I really like it because it is so drastically different. So I'm excited for the outer court adventures. And of course, Jinshi has his fan of smarty pants, highly educated ladies, and they're just in this group and they try and come up to Maomao, but Maomao is so good at manipulating people. She just put up her arm and was like, "Oh, he's so kind. He just took pity on me." And almost all those girls believed her except for that one with the dark hair. I don't remember her name. I don't know if we got her name, but I think she can see through Maomao. But yeah, of course. Why is there always like this fan club of girls? It's so embarrassing. Now we do see Jinshi's place and we get to meet Surin. I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right yet, but Surin, like the older lady who takes care of him, and she's the only one there. Like, they don't hire other girls because they kind of get obsessed with Jinshi. So I'm sure she's happy to have Maomao. And I like her so far. She's a little strict, but I like her. I think she's definitely part of Jinshi's inner circle with Gaoshin. Do we think Surin and Gaoshin know that Jinshi is Adua's son? Does Jinshi know that? Does Emperor know that? Like, or is this hidden by Adua and she told Jinshi and he just learned that? I don't know. I'm still like confused on that part, okay? Also, along with the test, the fact that Jinshi has so much faith in Maomao's intelligence that he thought she could study for a little bit and then become a court lady is so nice. And of course, Maomao is like, the only thing I'm interested in is medicinal herbs and poisons and stuff like that. So this girl's not going to pay attention to anything else. But I don't know, I was kind of hoping that she would pass and be like, a nonchalant, almost like a Shikamaru from Naruto level of intelligence. That would have been really cool. And then, those girls who were trying to bully her would be like, are you serious? Like, I was kind of hoping for something like that. But that is very cliche, so I was a little surprised she didn't pass. So, yeah, now she's just his personal servant, so that just gives us more time with her and him, which I'm not complaining about. Now for episode 14, the Pure Consort. Consort? Consort. I don't know why this episode's called that, because it should be called Maomao teaching concubine lessons or whatever, because I felt like I didn't learn too much about the new Pure Consort. I see that she's kind of like a little bit uppity, a little bit bit nonchalant. Like, we don't see a lot of her emotions. I didn't really learn a lot about her, to be honest, besides the fact that she doesn't seem squeamish, like, outwardly, like the other concubines, especially Lady Lishu banging her head, a 14-year-old banging her head against the wall. Like, I'm not doing that. As you should, queen. You should not be doing that, period. But anyway, I just, like, didn't learn a lot about the new prayer concert to really form an opinion on her. But I loved that it was Maomao teaching this class because, I guess, you know, the ladies, Lihawa, I think that was her name, the one who she gave that little tip that she learned from her brothel sisters about what she should do. So Lady Liawa and Lady Gyoko both recommended her as a teacher, and that's just hilarious. The scene and reactions with all the ladies, like reading what Maomao wrote in her manual and all that stuff, is so me and my friends reading Romantasy. It's, you know, it's a trip. Then this episode just pivots into us seeing Lehaku again, the guy, the officer who escorted Maomao the first time to see her dad. He gave her the hairpin, and so I assume he's going to be a recurring character because now I like know his name, and this is our second time, and he has like an identifiable character face. So I'm just going to assume he's a recurring character now. And Maomao basically helps these two officers solve a warehouse explosion issue within like it looks like a span of like 20 minutes, and she's so smart, but I just like didn't understand this scene, like why it was here, but maybe it was to show like Maomao is just an incredibly smart crime investigator, solver, detective stabler vibes. Oh no, she's more like what's his name from Criminal Minds? What's his name? Spencer Reed. She's more of like a Dr. Spencer Reed, very nonchalant, you know, and it's like this, and this means that this is gonna happen. I totally see Maomao and Dr. Spencer Reed on the same level. Now, Maomao did take some fancy tobacco pipe from the crime scene, so I'm thinking that's going to be important for something. I just hope it's not one of those misunderstandings, like they are like, oh, you just stole this expensive tobacco pipe or whatever. Hope it's nothing dumb like that. Please don't be anything like that. But yeah, I feel like there's something significant about that tobacco pipe. And also, I feel so validated if you listen to the earlier episodes, which I don't know why you wouldn't have listened to the earlier episodes and came to this. But anyway, the earlier episodes, there was like the guy who died from drinking too much salt. And then I said, it looks like a guy with blue eyes and dark hair, like did that on purpose. And then that guy reappeared again at the end of this episode. Like some guy is like, some older man is freaking out, like, about something, and he has oranges in front of him or something, and then we see the guy with dark hair and blue eyes again. So I'm not crazy. I knew that was important. Validated. On to episode 15, Raw Fish. And first thing I have to say about this episode is Master Lakan is so creepy. Get Maomao's name out of your damn mouth, brother. Like, no. Ew, he's creepy. But this episode is where Maomao has to solve this issue about two people dying at with the same way, but like 10 years apart. And people were thinking it was the blowfish or pufferfish. Turns out it was this fancy seaweed that was imported and it wasn't cleaned out correctly. But through this case, we meet Boston, who, I don't know, I feel like he's related to Gaoshin because they're like very similar. And I can tell that Boston will be a recurring character because his eyes are really pretty. And you know, the prettier the eyes, the more they are a recurring character. So I feel like we're going to see a lot more of him. But yeah, so him and Momo basically go and solve this. And he's like, at first I was like, is he going to hate her? Is he going to be like one of those annoying characters that just hate her because she's her? But no, he didn't really get in her way. I think he was low-key like, oh, this girl's actually really smart and analytical. She just doesn't listen to me. So I think he's good people. I think Boston is good people. Every episode is Maomao solving a crime, and it's low-key feeling like a police anime, and Maomao just happens to be the person who has it all in her brain and can solve everything. And I think in this episode it was they realized it was a younger brother who put the older brother in the coma and stuff. But I'm trying to figure out, like, why are we building up her cases, basically? Why are we building up her, like, success in solving these mysteries? And my theory is that maybe whoever, like, there's, like, we see the military base there, and my theory is that maybe Lakan or somebody in that military base really is keeping an eye on Maomao because of her analytical skills and maybe might want her to be part of whatever, if they have something like, like cops or something similar to that, if they have something like that, then they would want her to be part of that group. And maybe that's why we're kind of getting all these episodes where she's kind of building up her successes in these cases, and then even Basen can vouch for her. The other guy, I forgot his name already, Lehaku can vouch for her. Obviously, Jinshi and Gaoshin will vouch for her of her intelligence and stuff. And just because she didn't pass the court lady test doesn't mean she's dumb. Like, she's obviously very smart. So maybe someone's keeping an eye on her for that. But I hope it's not Lakan, because he is weird. He's giving weird. And this is like a little bit side note, but when Maomao like ate the seaweed, when Gaoshin and Jinshi basically held her down and made her vomit, I know that she's supposed to be representative of a cat, but that scene was so cat, because that's exactly what I would do with my cat. Like, it was just so funny. I love this anime's comedic timing. It's fantastic. The end of this episode is what I want to talk about, because Lakan is talking to Jinshi about courtesans and that he wants to give Maomao something new is going on with some puzzles, but he's talking about a courtesan, and we see the image of what I assume is Maomao's mom, because she looks like she has green hair and looks like she could be Maomao, basically. And he said something about her selling her skills, not her body. And then he said that he liked her, but she was too expensive. I forgot the exact words, but he basically had to devalue her, which I don't like the sound of that. He's so creepy. The music was making it creepy. I'm going to put my theories out on what he means. He either means like, I don't know, like acid or something, like threw acid or something on her, made her like something to make her like unattractive maybe. And then the other thing I could think of is like pregnancy, because I don't know, like he's giving weird, like what if he did that, or like the R word, and like try to devalue, well, I don't know, cuz like she's a courtesan. I don't know the rules of this world, okay? But what if he did that as a way to devalue her? And I'm afraid that this man is Maomao's real dad, because I was rewatching this episode for this podcast, and then I was looking at his eyes, and he has these blue eyes like Maomao, and I'm stressed. I'm stressed for her. And also, I didn't realize that this Apothecary Diaries is not a finished series on Netflix, so therefore I have to buy get the Crunchyroll subscription or whatever to watch season 2 and 3, and I'm freaking out because now I have to know if that's her dad or not, and I am just having a moment. Well, now I'm just having a crisis, thinking that he's her dad. So, on that note, let me know what you guys think. You can talk to me through TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and the podcast, all at AmandaSushii with 2 eyes. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.